We started with Google and say actually that is the trust filter at the moment, and patients do trust what comes out of Google. The issue is that Google is run on an algorithm that it's a black box. You don't know how that algorithm works. So it's very hard to trust that, and it's probably the way that Google would like you to see that information, which might not be what a patient needs in terms of seeing that information. Because it's based on popularity versus accuracy, and that can be a different thing in health. Yet, on the other side, as Denise mentioned, Pew Internet does a study every year and asks people, have you or anybody heard of gotten hurt by what they found online? And this percentage has been stable at 3% only. So we had a lot of discussions whether it actually needs more than that. I mean, people that do go online, they do find information, they do not seem to get hurt in like overwhelmingly big numbers. They could if they wanted to.
People don't get hurt if they Google in big numbers, did you say?
Yeah. There's more and more people going online, the more and more people are looking at health, and yet we're not seeing them fall over like flies dying because of what they find on Google. Which is reassuring. Could it be better? Yes. But there isn't like, there used to be this big, like the internet is toxic and everybody's going to get into trouble and whatever, and that doesn't seem to pan out, right? There used to be, again, this was a very interesting remark from Denise, there used to be a Google Co-op search way where you could actually filter, basically add to this algorithm and say, I want all the sites that have the home code to come up first. For example, it died in 2009. People didn't use it. So again, people seem to be pretty happy with what comes out of Google, which is the first sort of understanding. But then we were saying maybe with things like Google Plus, you could actually now add that back into research and actually have sort of like a mixture between a mashup between Google and just stumble upon and just basically have your Google Plus community and filter by whatever they vetted and sort of get a different results on Google. Again, if people are interested in it. Then we talked about specific actors, and I brought up Webisina. Webisina is for me personally a search engine I trust on health. I don't know if everybody knows what it is, but Percy brought it on. He's reviewed a large number of medical sources. He categorized it by disease area. He vetted that information, saying this is medically good information, and he put across it a search engine that searches then just this. So if you're looking for breast cancer, prostate cancer, it looks at those sources, which works very well for me. But then that goes back, that's a filter I trust. It might not be the filter that Garbon needs or trusts. So we might have very different needs. So then again, the big old one-size-fits-it-all Google seems to do its job, right? I mean, for whatever education level and health need you have at the moment, you might need a different filter, and you are creating those filters yourself by using something like Webisina, by going through information that bloggers gave you or that come out of the forum, etc. You're sort of customizing yourself that filter. We talked about government's role and had a bit of a discussion whether they should or should not get involved. Obviously, it's great to have, like, this is the holy grail of true information, it's government approved, etc., but the process is very inefficient. And depending on where you're from, you trust or you don't trust your government, right? Or depending on your political views, I guess, as well. But for me as a German, for example, I find this very problematic because treatments that become available in 5 years, that are already available in the US market, for example, the urban health authorities will talk about it. If I go and I look up, you know, the latest on the new flu wave that's coming, they'll give me information about the bird flu of 1999. So maybe, yeah, ideally yes, but practically not such a good person. We talked about ACOR. Everyone knows what ACOR is? Yeah? Cancer-based email patient study that review a huge amount of information, discuss it, and through that discussion, enrich it. So this is really, I think, a true example of a community-based trust filter that's been around since how long? 90s?
The Hunt code?
No, the ACOR.
ACOR is practically the same year, 95, yeah.
And the home code was also something we discussed, so that ideally should be the slower report and your site is vetted. Problem is it's based on, so it is available actually in 25 language. It's Geneva-based and funded, I didn't know that, it's an NGO. The process of use is editorial, it's not content-based, and it, I guess, would have trouble keeping up with user-generated content. So it's not perfect for this.
They did create, and I'm looking right now, they do have a tool where doctors can recommend sites. But nothing that HON does ever goes viral, because this is not a funding need.
Yeah, so we were I think discussion was like, is it actually a fundamental need to add yet another layer of trust filters, or do people actually precisely go to the internet because they want to create their own filters and make up their own information? And then we had two very interesting side conversations on how many sources of information there actually are versus how many are actually just repeated, which we can discuss over lunch. And the other one was about Swiss people having loaded guns under their beds, which is very relevant and very interesting research.
37%, I found that 37% of Swiss households have guns.
Yeah, and their suicide rates are crazy as well.
I'm
very nice with my Swiss neighbors. Like when they come and knock on my door because, you know, that washroom isn't clean, I immediately go down because we don't know what they have under the bed. Loaded guns. Well, just as the analogy, it was that the internet in a way is a loaded gun, and you can get more hurt if you choose to go out and get that information. It's like if you have a gun in your household, you know, there's a much higher percentage that if you decide to commit suicide, you actually, you know, manage, because you're doing it with a butter knife. Wonderful. So the internet in a way has brought that into the home, right? It is a sure way to get hurt if you don't be careful, if you don't vet your information, if you do stupid things with it. But in and of itself, it doesn't mean that besides telling people that they should do these things, what else can you do? You know, get rid of the gun? We can't anymore. So, yeah, that was our discussion. Not very, we didn't come up with the perfect trust filter, but more questioning. Good, great. Well, hear from your side. Give me back my spot on the couch.
Don't mind. The old naughty as ever. Right.
Okay, well, rather than struggle over there to come back again.
No, I want my spot on the couch.
Well done.
Okay.
Yeah, good work. I would invite group 2 to share their wisdom and their answers.
We have no
Are
answers.
you through again?
Of course.
Always does the best story.
Blue tech there, Vic.
Well, these work.
Hey,
Now we know. Probably not through that then. Okay, blue tech it is.
You could lift the pen over.
There. Okay. So anybody else can chime in when they feel like it. It's probably a good idea if you are going to chime in, then hopefully you were there.
Love the choice of colors.
I didn't have any choice in colours. I will be going around the other rooms
No,
and
but
gathering
purple
more
really
pens.
doesn't.
And I have to let you know now that I will break out my reserve pens from my bag if I need to.
The suggestion is that you stick with these.
Now that you're an artist. Right, so we started off by saying what is a trust filter, and the conversation sort of went, well, we've talked about search engines. We agree with the previous group. A lot of people using search engines, but also there's offline stuff as well. So we had a bit of a conversation about things like TV shows, the media, and perhaps people aren't looking necessarily naturally for peer-reviewed stuff because they don't understand what that is. So they will trust something that's coming out of a big media organisation or Google or whatever. And we come back to that because there are other people that we trust as human beings, such as family members and so forth, which can lead to issues that we come on to on page 2. So we talked about that. And we sort of said, well, there are different types of health information that people are looking for. There's in an emergency. We actually talked about that if you get stung by a bee, then that's the moment when you need to know, what should I put on, what should I do about it? And that's one type of information that somebody might be looking for, as opposed to, I know I've got a long-term condition, I need to find out how to manage it, or I need to understand it more, better, what have you. But people are still kind of using the same sort of filters. And then we kind of sort of said, well, what about the patient community? Are they more relevant to the long-term condition management? Maybe. And the people in that community, the people that when you ask a question, the answer that you trust is often the person that's posted the most or most regularly or has the best feedback, and that's a good or a bad thing, but it's a kind of filter. Would you ask a patient community, if you're in a patient community for diabetes, would you ask them about bee stings? Well, so we've got a bit of debate around that, around this is a specialist community, and do people go in there to ask questions about other health concerns, and actually they may get a good referral, sort of, we know nothing about this, but we would suggest you go and speak to somebody else. Then Mike started going, well, algorithm. We need an algorithm of trust as opposed to a filter. So what is that algorithm? And people's sort of ears started to steam and so forth as we thought about that. And then we had this confidence issue at the same time, where if you're not confident, then if you're not a confident patient, something hurts, you're not sure what it is, maybe you go to your doctor. The more confident you get, you may search yourself on the internet. You may be confident that what you read, you understand. And then, of course, there's probably, like some people in the room, you could actually understand the peer-reviewed clinical papers, those kind of real in-depth stuff. So there's a confidence versus the filters that you use. We then sort of kind of ended up with, is it something here? Are we looking? How do we move people through that range of stuff? How do we help the unconfident through all the assets that are available? How am I doing? Anybody in the crew?
We've got news from outside the room. It says, don't worry, this is good. Your starting point is simple and the points made are clear. I'm just pointing out she's catching you on a good day, that's all.
Thanks. Thanks, Mum. So then, where do we get to? Unconfident people. How do we get them from one place to the next? So this is somebody, and they're not quite sure. They're not confident.